History remembers Cleopatra VIII as the ultimate survivor, a ruler who bent Rome's most powerful men to her will and held Egypt together against impossible odds. But Cleopatra did not rise in a vacuum. She emerged from a dynasty already rotting from the inside, where siblings were rivals, parents were liabilities, and power was something you either seized or lost forever. What makes her story even more unsettling is this: with the slightest shift of timing or fortune, it might not have been Cleopatra, whose name echoed through history. It could have been one of her sisters, women just as ambitious, just as intelligent, and nearly as ruthless. Their failure was not a lack of ability. It was losing at the wrong moment to the wrong people in a world increasingly controlled by Rome. This is the story of Cleopatra's sisters and how close they came to rewriting history. A dynasty already on the brink. Cleopatra and her siblings were born into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal house ruling Egypt since the days of Alexander the Great. By the time of Ptolemy XII Auletes, Cleopatra's father, the dynasty was deeply unpopular. The Ptolemies ruled as outsiders, Greek-speaking monarchs who rarely connected with the Egyptian population. Ptolemy XII made matters worse through heavy taxation, corruption, and his humiliating dependence on Rome. To keep his throne, he bribed Roman leaders and effectively placed Egypt under Roman financial supervision. The people knew it. The nobility resented it. And Rome never forgot who owed them money. When Rome annexed Cyprus, ruled by Ptolemy XII's brother, panic spread through Egypt. Many believed Egypt would be next. Blame fell squarely on the king. In 58 BC, that fear exploded into revolt. The sister who ruled first. When Ptolemy XII fled to Rome, power did not collapse into chaos. Instead, Egypt crowned a new ruler, Berenice IV, Cleopatra's elder sister. Initially, Berenice ruled alongside her mother, Cleopatra V. But that partnership was short-lived. Cleopatra V soon disappeared, most likely poisoned, leaving Berenice as Egypt's sole female pharaoh. At just 20 years old, Berenice proved herself a capable and decisive ruler. She cracked down on corruption, stabilized borders, and softened the brutal tax policies that had enraged the population. Unlike her predecessors, she actively sought legitimacy among Egyptians rather than ruling as a distant Greek monarch. There is evidence that under Berenice's reign, Egyptian language and customs re-entered royal life, reforms later credited to Cleopatra herself. History would remember Cleopatra as the ruler who embraced Egypt. In reality, Berenice did it first. But competence alone was not enough. The marriage problem. Berenice's greatest political weakness was also her most dangerous vulnerability. She ruled alone. The Egyptian court, deeply patriarchal, demanded a king consort to secure succession. Under pressure, Berenice agreed to marry, but the results were disastrous. Her first husband, a minor noble with royal connections, proved arrogant and deeply unpopular. His sudden rise to power alienated the court and embarrassed the monarchy. According to ancient sources, Berenice solved the problem efficiently. He was executed. Her second marriage to Archelaus, a Greek priest claiming royal descent, was a calculated gamble, perhaps an attempt to appease Rome. But Archelaus offered no Roman protection. Worse, Rome had already chosen its preferred ruler. Rome decides the game. While Berenice tried to stabilize Egypt, Ptolemy C was in Rome, buying his throne back. Roman power brokers saw Egypt not as a kingdom, but as an asset. When a Roman-backed army marched into Egypt, Berenice's forces were no match. Archelaus died in battle. Berenice was captured. Ptolemy XII returned to Alexandria under Roman guard, and his vengeance was immediate. Berenice IV, Egypt's reigning queen, was executed. Her reign was erased, her reforms undone, and her name buried beneath Cleopatra's future legend. Cleopatra, loyal to her father during exile, was rewarded. She learned a crucial lesson early: Rome decides who lives. The sister who humiliated Caesar. If Berenice ruled first, Arsinoë IV fought hardest, and for a brief moment, she did something almost unthinkable. She made Julius Caesar look beatable. After Ptolemy XII died in 51 BC, Cleopatra inherited a throne that came with poison in the paperwork. She was named co-ruler with her younger brother, Ptolemy VI, but the court in Alexandria wasn't built for partnership, especially not when the senior partner was a woman with her own ideas. Cleopatra moved fast to assert authority, pushing her face onto official decrees and signaling that she intended to rule, not assist. The courtiers around Ptolemy XIII's men who benefited from controlling a teenage king didn't just dislike that. They feared it. So, Cleopatra was forced out. Not slowly, not politely. She was pushed into exile, stripped of the machinery of state, and suddenly reduced to survival politics, raising money, gathering mercenaries, negotiating loyalty in deserts and border towns where royal titles didn't automatically protect you. That exile matters because it created the most dangerous thing imaginable in dynastic politics, a royal claimant with nothing to lose. And that's when the Roman storm arrived. Betrayal and capture. Arsinoë's greatest enemy was not Julius Caesar, it was the men who were supposed to be fighting beside her. However effective her leadership proved on the battlefield, many Egyptian commanders could not accept the idea of taking orders from a woman. To them, Arsinoë's success was an embarrassment, not a victory. Each day she remained in command made their own authority look weaker. So while Arsinoë pressed the war against Rome, her officers worked quietly against her. Behind closed doors, they opened negotiations with Caesar, offering him something he valued more than a dramatic victory: stability. In exchange for Roman favor, they proposed restoring Ptolemy IX as king, a male ruler who could be managed, advised, and ultimately controlled. It was a familiar pattern in ancient politics: ideology sacrificed for comfort. When Roman reinforcements finally reached Egypt, the balance of power collapsed almost overnight. Arsinoë's forces, already fractured by betrayal, could not withstand the renewed Roman assault. She was captured, not as a defeated general on the battlefield, but as a political inconvenience that needed to be removed. In Rome, Caesar turned her capture into spectacle. Arsinoë was paraded through the streets during his triumph, bound and displayed before cheering crowds, meant to symbolize Rome's absolute dominance over Egypt. But the performance backfired. Instead of mockery, the Roman people felt unease. They saw not a monster, but a young woman who had dared to challenge Rome's greatest commander and nearly won. Reports suggest the crowd sympathized with her, and some even booed Caesar for humiliating a defeated opponent who had shown courage. That reaction mattered. Caesar could conquer nations, but public opinion in Rome still carried weight. Rather than execute Arsinoë and risk appearing cruel, he chose exile. She was sent to live in enforced religious seclusion at the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, a place meant to silence her without spilling blood. Officially, it was mercy. In reality, it was a pause. Cleopatra finishes the job. Arsinoë survived Caesar, but she did not survive Cleopatra. After Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra aligned herself with Mark Antony. Together, they viewed Arsinoë as a living threat. In 41 BC, assassins murdered Arsinoë inside the temple, an act so shocking it violated sacred law. Ancient writers later whispered that this sacrilege doomed Cleopatra's fate, paving the way for Augustus to defeat Antony and Cleopatra at Actium. Superstition aside, the truth is simpler. Cleopatra eliminated every rival who could challenge her claim. Why Cleopatra survived? Cleopatra's brilliance was not just intelligence or charm, it was timing. She understood Rome earlier than her sisters did. She chose allies instead of fighting impossible wars. She learned when to submit and when to strike. Berenice ruled well but lacked Roman backing. Arsinoë fought bravely but challenged Rome directly. Cleopatra did neither. She bent Rome to her needs, until Rome no longer needed her. History crowned Cleopatra a legend. Her sisters became footnotes. But their stories reveal a harsher truth. Cleopatra did not rise because she was alone in her ambition. She rose because she outlasted women just as capable, women who ruled, fought, and nearly won. If one Roman decision had gone differently, if one betrayal had failed, history might remember a different queen. And Cleopatra would be the forgotten sister. And that's the story of Cleopatra's sisters, rivals, warriors, and queens who nearly shaped history in their own right. If you found this untold side of history as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Like and subscribe.